So I'm pressing record, if that's okay. And let's begin. So if you've got a cup of tea, sometimes when I do a meditation, I just hold my cup of tea and just remind myself to stay focused where I am and to give myself permission to be able to write and reflect in this season. So let's begin. Let's begin by becoming aware of your body. Relax your body by focusing on your breathing. Gentle, cool breaths in. Then notice the slow, long, warm breath that's leaving your body. Become aware of the sounds around you. Is there a dog barking in the distance? Is there a TV playing in the room next door? Allow those sounds to stay outside of this hour together and start to focus again on your breathing. Breathe in slowly and gently. And each time you exhale, allow yourself to relax a little deeper. That's it. Let go and relax. Gently inhale and slowly exhale and relax a little further. Scan your body from the top of your head right down to your toes and search for any tension and let it go. Relax your eyebrows. Relax your jaw. Relax your shoulders. Relax your hands. Melt into the chair. Relax your feet. Find where your feet are on the ground. Are you standing on grass? Are you sitting in your lounge room? Is there a place in your body that you can feel tension right now? Think of that area and then allow it to soften. If you're finding it hard to relax, it may be that your body and mind are trying to protect you from trusting the process. Take a moment to honor your body and your mind. They have done their best to protect you, now and in the past. Now say to your body and your mind, thank you for protecting me. It's okay. I am choosing to trust this process, and I will always be in control. Just as loud noises can wake me up, my subconscious will let me know if I'm in physical danger, and it is safe to relax in this moment. I will do my best to relax and let go a little bit more, letting all the tension go out of my body. Now I want you to imagine a place of safety, a place where you have felt safe before. Perhaps it's a room in your house. Perhaps it's the ocean and the sand under your feet. Perhaps it's a forest with trees all around. Or maybe a fireplace that you sit alongside. Maybe it's someone's knee that you sit upon. Maybe it's a chair that you sit and press reset on. Imagine you're in that safe place right now. How does it feel? Focus on that feeling. Here is your safe place. Your body can let go even more because you know that you are safe. Now I want you to think of feelings of happiness, of joy, of innovation, of creativity in your safe place. You are with someone that is kind to you. It may be God. Maybe it's a person. or a pet that comes alongside and they are comforting you. It is so peaceful here in your safe place. No one worries or cares. You are soaking up the peace in your body. You are hearing soothing, peaceful music. And you can see all around you in this safe place. You will also notice here in your safe place that there is a door back into this present moment, into this online writing room, into this space where you're about to press reset and to write, to reflect. You can leave this safe place knowing whenever you are ready, knowing that if you feel overwhelmed, you can come back to this place. You can come back here anytime to find the peace, the rest, the person, the purpose, and the opportunity for you to be able to press reset. You can do this in your mind anytime that you want to. So pick up your cup of tea, your glass of water, your pen, and we're going to start today. And you could turn over and do it on a blank piece of paper if you've written out or printed out the Reset Journaling Guide, or you could do it in a journal. It can be a scrap piece of paper. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. And the first thing I want you to do is I want you to start with a circle in the middle of the piece of paper. And I want you to write one word in that circle. We have 45 minutes to journal together. The word that I want you to write in that circle is this. What do you give yourself permission to do in this next 45 minutes? Is it speak up? Is it rest? Is it reflect? Is it have a go? Even though that's more than one word, that's fine. Is it to be quiet? Is it to try again? Is it to be bold? Is it to be courageous? Each and every one of us have an opportunity in front of us to be able to write. And often the greatest impact to our writing and our journaling is the way that we speak to ourselves, the way that we stop ourselves, the way that we edit ourselves. It was really funny in a local cafe here. I walked into the cafe and I saw my high school English teacher. And if you've read any of my writing, it's not perfect, it's imperfect. I am a really big fan of free-flowing writing. Often I break grammatical conventions. There's a passion inside of me that I want to translate through stories. That often means that I get it wrong. And I've had to grow on my journey of that. But I remember seeing my English teacher and feeling fear to the very depth of my bones. Because not because she was a harsh person, but because I just remember that my creative writing and my writing was never good enough and my grammar was terrible. And I think if I was really honest, my dad has dyslexia and I think there would be parts where I get a little bit confused in my mind around the location of letters and words. And if I went and got tested, there would probably be an opportunity for me to be able to explore that. But anyway, she came over to me and she was like, Amanda, it's so great to see you. And she just looked so excited to see me. She's like, I just remember how creative you were and how expressive you were. And all these things she was telling me were the complete opposite of what I had told myself of that season. And she said, what are you doing now? And I said, actually, I'm a writer. I'm an author and I've published 15 books. And she was like, what? She was so excited. And it's so interesting. I tell you this story because what I had told myself about my writing, what I had believed, the inner dialogue was completely opposite to her understanding of who I was and the potential I had as a creative. So I've talked for way too long. I want to give you space to write. What do you give yourself permission to do? One of the best ways that you can journal is by using the timer on your clock. You just give yourself on your clock, on your phone, you just give yourself a little timer. And so I am going to give us a timer for 2 minutes. So I want you to write one word. And within that word, I want you to then go around the word. So I give myself permission to be present, is what I'm going to write. Then around the word, I just want you to write all different things. What does being present mean? So brainstorm it out on a piece of paper and just get it all on a page. And I'm going to give us 1 minute on the timer, and our time starts now. And that is 1 minute. So I want you to just to have a look at it. And what I want you to explore is in today's session, if you have a look at my screen, is actually just allowing yourself to write whatever comes out. Free flow journaling and free flow writing for the writers in the room is actually that we give ourselves permission to just write whatever comes out. Do not edit it. Do not try to make it perfect. It's actually about what you need in this moment to be able to express the emotions, the stories, the insight that you have ready for tomorrow. So let's go to the beginning of the process. And the beginning talks about the potential for us to be able to begin again. Every day is an opportunity for us to reset. Every morning has new mercies. And often in the middle of the year, especially for us here in Australia, we're in the middle of winter. And winter often is this opportunity for us to hibernate, for us to be able to withdraw, for us to go a little bit slower, for us to be able to sit by the fire. But sometimes our work and our life doesn't give us that opportunity. So every mid-year, I take time to really press reset on the focus. So the first exercise that we're going to do today is in one word, what has been your focus for the year? If you don't have one word, that's okay. Every end of the year, I take groups of people through a journaling practice, which this year's was called Gentle Rhythms. I have my Gentle Rhythms here. And as a part of Gentle Rhythms, we took time to be able to really set a word for the year. So if you have done Gentle Rhythms, that's an opportunity for you to remind yourself of that word now. So let's write that word down. Or if you don't have one, it's an opportunity for you to choose one now. If I could focus on just one thing from now till the end of 2024, it's similar to the permission. What is one word that could be a focus for the rest of this year? Is it healing? Is it hope? My word for 2024 is lighter. I have been reminding myself to carry things lighter. And so I'm going to write that down. And I want you to do the same thing. The circle is there as what we've just done. Brainstorm what that word looks like. So it could be things that really just make sense to you. Start to draw it out, explore it, put little strokes from outside of that word lighter. Often the reason why I start journaling retreats this way is it helps us to be able to brainstorm it. It helps us to be able to think quickly. It helps us to let go of trying to form sentences and to actually really settle into our own intuition, our own sense of self, and to really start to listen, to reflect, to find ways to be able to do that. For some of us, that might be the opportunity for us to be able to reflect in prayer, for us to be able to listen to what God is saying. For others, it would be an opportunity for us to just be able to be quieter and to be able to explore. So as I'm talking, I want you to start to write out, what does lighter for me look like? What does your word look like in practice this year? There's no right or wrong answer to this. It's actually what you need in this moment. Keep writing. When you've come to the end and you can't think of anything else, just allow yourself, give yourself permission to keep going. Write it out. What does that word look like in practice? Maybe do the opposite of that word. What does it mean? So for me, the opposite is, what does it mean to be heavy? For me to control, for me to hold on to things. What does lighter mean? The opposite of it helps us see what maybe that word needs to be. What does it look like in practice for you this year, living lighter? Obviously, that's my word. But for you, what does your word look like in practice? Beautiful. If you finished writing and you'd like an opportunity to be able to explore something different, and you feel like you've got permission to be able to do so, in the chat, would you like to write your word, your focus for the year, so that we can really just read through and be inspired by one another and what we are leaning towards? So if you're still writing, keep writing. But if you've finished and you'd like to explore and read what other people are doing, then let's write that in the chat. I think you're all knee deep in writing, which is fantastic. Well, that's beautiful, Rebecca. Open-hearted is a beautiful expression. Oh, Leah, that's fantastic. And welcome, welcome, Leah from the USA. Amazing. Tanya, healing, wonder. That's beautiful. Keep writing to reflect and choose one word and find a way to be able to express that. In the reset book, I showed you a little bit of an overview of what the change process is. And today's a part of that change process. It's really hard to be able to allow ourselves to change when we're moving really fast. And so slowing down and taking an hour for us to be able to do that today is really important. And so give yourself permission. You know, Fee, when you say work is a word and you say it's not terribly inspiring, work's a great word. And there's many different interpretations of work. So start to explore what that means for you, Fee, to be able to express that as well and to be able to explore that together. So you'll see on the next part is give yourself permission. So often we're our own inner critic and we really hold ourselves back from being able to do that. The process of journaling is so powerful for us to be able to take stock of our thoughts. And then finding a way for us to be able to be compassionate towards ourselves. So often we're really compassionate towards others, and it's really difficult for us to be compassionate to ourselves. And so, Fee, for you in this season of looking for work and finding work and being able to do that, a compassionate response would be, I am doing the best that I can. What does kindness look like? And so often we have harsh voices that really inform us of what our creativity, what our work, what our purpose, what healing looks like. We have words and from others that are quite harsh. And yes, sometimes, there's moments when my personal trainer husband is like, right, come on, get out, go for a walk, go do something. And yes, there are moments where a boundary or a sense of, come on, we can do this, it works. But so often it is counterproductive. And we are the hardest on ourselves than we are on others. And so being compassionate towards ourselves is really important. Then the next part is being able to listen deeply. I'm really looking forward to spending time with Anne to really understand what it means to listen deeply. And that's being able to slow ourselves down, to listen, to give ourselves permission, all those things we've been talking about. And the last thing that I put in this year's process was actually to forgive ourselves. Like I said, there's moments that are tough, like I had a really tough situation this year in 2024 with one of my really good long-time friends. We've been friends for a long time. And there were just a couple of things that happened that just actually made it really tough for us to be able to move forward. And so, really taking time across the last couple of weeks, we've had some really good conversations. We created some really good boundaries around what was happening. But at the same time, I also need to forgive myself for the times when I just got it wrong, when maybe I said something that I didn't mean to say, and that I want to be able to press reset on that. And sometimes we're the hardest on ourselves than we are on others. And we're going to have an exercise around forgiving ourselves and just acknowledging something that was tough. But what I want us to do now is to move on to the page where it talks about acknowledging goals that you've already done this year. Sometimes we can get so focused on the big thing. Like for us as a family, if you've watched any of my social media, we are renovating a boat. It was not really my decision to buy a big 10-meter wooden boat, but I have learned so much in doing it with my husband. In fact, he is on the boat right now renovating it. But we can allow the boat and the deadlines that the boatyard has given us to really take over and become this really big narrative in our family. And we can forget that there's actually things we said that we wanted to do at the beginning of this year that we've done. Sometimes we achieve something and we move on so fast and we forget to acknowledge what has already happened. So if you did gentle rhythms and you wrote down some things that you wanted to do this year, flick back through them and see, okay, what have I done that I wanted to set out to do this year? Or maybe you know them. Go back through, think about January and February and March and April. For me, as we logged on, I was talking to some of the attendees at the beginning, and I said, I've just joined back the gym. That's one of my things. I need to acknowledge that. I've actually joined the gym. I've held space for exercise, and it's one thing that I wanted to do this year. So, oh, that's a bit scary when I look back at the things I wanted to do this year. And there's quite a few that I haven't done. Okay, so let's write down what things have you ticked off this year? And if you want to acknowledge it to the group, you could type it in the chat as well. Start to just write it down. It could be really small, but it was something that was really important. For me, at the beginning of each year, I go to have appointments with my doctor, like getting my skin checked, getting a mammogram, just different things that really can become quite big, but reframe them in a different way. What are some really simple things that you've done this year that you're proud of? Did you make a decision about your future? Did you write something that you wanted to give to lots of people, but you had response just from one person, and that is really amazing? How about your house? Is there a culture in your house that you've wanted to shift? Just a few more seconds of writing and acknowledging things that you've done this year. Have you booked yourself a holiday overseas? Have you shown up at work even though it's been really tough? Have you gone to see a therapist? What are some things that may not look like goals achieved to others, but to you, you know that it's a really big thing that you've faced and you've done yourself? Beautiful. I'm now moving on to the page that says begin again. And I wrote the three words fun, focus, and friends because these were three things that I really wanted to start to expand in my life over the next 6 months. In some ways, I've become a little bit serious. And so I wanted to explore what fun looks like. Secondly, I want to give myself a sense of focus for the coming next 6 months. And I want to spend some time with friends. So in this circle, under begin again, now is the time for us to begin again. I just want you to write a few things that are fun for you. Between now and the end of the year, what is something fun? Is it diving into the ocean? Is it cooking recipes from a cookbook? What are some fun things that you could do? Let's just start on fun, and I'm going to put us a 1-minute timer on and start to explore some fun things. Is it joining a book club? Is it reading travel guides? Start to explore. Is it going out to a quiz night? Is it doing something just different? Things that you find that are fun, playing games with your family. Is it setting a goal to do something like learning to scuba dive? Or when I got my skipper's ticket, let me tell you, last year I was not thinking I was going to get my skipper's ticket, but it's turned to be something so fun. So start to explore, what does fun look like for you? Charlotte and I, there's a new venue in town, like really close to where we live, and they were having a comedy night. And it wasn't really our kind of comedy. But we just went and we went out to a comedy night just to go and do something different. Is there anything across the next 6 months that you could do that brings fun into your focus? Okay, the next part of the wheel, what I would love you to start explore, and you'll start to see that we're not doing big journaling prose like sessions where we're writing a big letter. That comes later. We're actually getting our brain to start thinking in a much more creative and spontaneous way and holding things a little bit lighter. So let's move on, and I'm going to do another timer for a minute. Let's move on to focus. What do we want to focus on in the next 6 months? And just write all kinds of things. You don't have to do it all. Don't worry about, I'm too busy. I don't know how to fit this in. Just start to write them all down. What could a focus be for the next 6 months? 30 more seconds on focus. Okay, 1 minute. Let's move on to friends. What does friendship look like for you in this season? How could you spend more time with friends? I'm going to do a 1-minute timer. Is it coffee with two people between now and the end of the year? Do you want to give yourself a writing retreat with another person where you're able to do that together? What does friendship look like? Is it going to a movie? Is it having a hard conversation like I spoke about before? Is it creating some boundaries around friendship? Is it to find more friends? And that's okay. Sometimes seasons, it's a time for new friends. Is it spending more time with your partner as your friend to be able to really come back to some of that friendship that began your relationship? That's our 1 minute gone. Now let's move on to writing a letter to yourself in 6 months' time. This is when we start to allow ourselves to write and to explore. And so if you've got the reset booklet on a digital form, you can do this writing in a journal, but if you've got the piece of paper, you can write into it. If you're still completing the last exercise, that's okay. Give yourself permission to just stay where you are because maybe you're in a zone where you're able to really start to express yourself, and that's a great thing. But if you're ready, I'd like you to write yourself a letter to yourself in 6 months' time. And here is the tone. If I was teaching writing right now, I want the tone to be compassionate. If you were compassionate to yourself in 6 months' time, and what does compassionate mean? It means that you sit with your sense of suffering. It means that you're kind. It means that you give yourself a break. It means that you encourage how hard you've been trying and what you've been doing. So rather than being really harsh, give yourself the opportunity to hope into the future. So let's start to explore what that looks like. And I might find one of my booklets and read to you one of my letters to my future self that I've written. Okay, this is my book, Begin Again. Let me see if I have a. Here we go. This is what I wrote 3 years ago. You ready? Live. Just pulling it off my journaling pile. Dear Amanda, you put so much pressure on yourself to continually achieve. Kindness is the greatest gift into your days that are coming. Remember how far you have come and the days that you desperately prayed for what you have today. Release the expectations that you are trying to control the future and just come back into the present. Your present decisions, they are the ones that build the future. Signed, me. So I wrote that to myself 3 years ago, and I probably need to read it again today. So let's have a write. Dear future self, dear Amanda, dear Tanya, dear Diane, dear Michelle, dear Jenny, and let's start to write to ourselves. Beautiful. It's just a short red letter. It's like you're writing a birthday card to yourself. It's a great opportunity to be able to do that. And it's something that you can do when you get a bit stuck, when you feel a bit angry, when you feel a bit unsure, when you feel like there is, um, yeah, just a lack of knowing what to do next. It's an opportunity for you to be able to do that. The next exercise in the book is the different spheres of our life. And I'm going to press pause on that activity and encourage you to create a 15-minute time block. So this is your homework, a 15-minute time block where you come back to the spheres of life sometime this week. And if you've put today aside to write, you could do it after we've finished, but to just come back and start to reflect on each of the spheres in your life. So there's space for you to be able to do that. You could give yourself a mark out of 10 or a mark out of 5. You could write a little story that comes from those areas in your life. You could create a couple of goals that you want to really set between now and the end of the year, and to be able to explore that. But what I want to be able to do is remind yourself that there are different spheres of resetting. And when I created this booklet just a few weeks ago, it's very fresh. I want you to remind yourself that the spheres of our life really reflect on the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual. And when they come together, we find ways to be able to do that. But what I want to take some time to do 5 minutes of today is to really focus on just 3 things between now and the end of the year. If there were only 3 things that you did, 3 quite simple things, or maybe they could be a really big thing, like Fiona's prayer to find work and to find a job, the next step of what that looks like. I want you to write down what those 3 victories would look like. So 1, 2, and 3. You have the 3 victory page. Everyone's on that page with me? What does it look like? Have your priorities changed since the beginning of the year? Is there a story that you just weren't sure was going to happen and then suddenly it has happened and you're here now and you need to deal with it? So, what are 3 things that you would like to achieve by the end of this year? So, let's go. 5-minute timer. Let's write 5 minutes together. Timer has started. 3 things. Not 25 things, just 3 things you want to do between now and the end of the year. You could write just one word or you could write a sentence about it. It's 3 minutes 30. We've still got a minute and a half. Rather than what, try to write how. So for me, I want to go to the gym 2 times, at least 2 times a week. Rather than just stating the what, describe the how. How can I make that happen? What stops me from going to the gym? What stops me from writing? What stops me from sitting down and prioritizing that thing that we want to have by the end of the year? So start to explore that. 30 more seconds. Keep writing. Give yourself permission to not overthink it. Just write down whatever comes naturally. They don't have to be world-changing ideas, just things that make a huge difference to you and your routine and your sense of well-being and where you want to be. That's 5 minutes. Awesome. Let's move on. We've got 10 minutes, and I want to spend that 10 minutes talking about the dream job part of Reset. And some of us may have our dream job, and that's okay. What I want you to do is not think of another job then. Think of, how do I make the job that I have right now fit the season that I'm in and the person I want to become? And if you are really wanting to explore more, what does purposeful look like for you? Often we go to work and it uses up the most amount of our time. We spend most of our time sleeping, hopefully, and then we spend the next amount of our time actually at work. And so we want to make sure that it really matches our contribution and matches the environment and matches the kind of person we'd like to become. So the first thing I would like you to start to do is imagine that you are writing your own job description. And it is a powerful position to be in, to be able to remind yourself what your strengths are, what your best contribution is. Often we want that to come from others, but finding ways for us to be able to explore that ourselves is really important. So you can take some time to read through the article that I've written. It's very simple, but just around purpose and passion. And the clarity of purpose is discovered when we find our authentic voice, our community, and our contribution. So let's start to explore it. When you contribute in ways that are meaningful for you, it creates impact. It also helps you to take risks and persevere despite obstacles. Imagine you can make a positive impact that inspires you in the next 6 months. What would this look like? Who would you want to benefit from this impact? So the question is, what are your strengths and your best place of contribution? Start to write from that place in that first box or in your journal. What are my strengths and my best place of contribution? Sometimes the way I think about it is this. If there was a title to the book of my life, what would I want the title to be? You could write it up the top. She lived brave. Renovating a boat did not kill her. Think about the title of a book, the signature message of your life. What would that look like? What would it sound like? What is something that could frame your sense of purpose for the coming days? Okay, next gray box or next peach box if you had the beauty of being able to print it in color. What work culture do you thrive in? Each of us have actually really different expressions of what work looks like, or the purpose or the sense of passion that we want to live in. Do you need quiet to be able to think and concentrate? Do you come alive in groups of people? Do you need clear procedures? Are you a maverick who wants to go and break the box and break the rules? How do you feel in a structured environment? How do you feel in a disorganized or more fluid environment or a chaotic environment? Do you come alive in that? What work culture do you thrive in? You could look back at your career and map out the high points when you felt more fulfilled and successful. Maybe that's something that you could do as homework later, because you have to really go back maybe through your resume and go, okay, I really loved that part about that job. I really loved this about the job. But just for today, write down, what environments do you thrive in? High paced, slow paced, people focused, process focused, scientific, creative, innovative. And they're not polarized either. You can actually have both. Research, data driven, people centric. Okay. That exercise actually is one that is going to take probably about a half an hour. So you can go back and do that as a part of homework in another time. But it starts to explore then, what are deal breakers? Is it a location? Is it pay? Is it benefits? Is it flexibility? Is it fitting in with your family? Are you in a place where you're retired and you want to do something new and you want to live a meaningful sense of contribution? Start to explore that. Also, being able to really admit, I love doing this, I really don't love doing that. And sometimes you're going to have to do things that you don't love, but at the same time, finding ways to be able to really focus your passion and focus your purpose. And your job and your work don't need to be the same. Sometimes we can just have a job to have a job, but at the same time, you have something which is your contribution outside of that. But start to write yourself your own job description, and it's a really empowering way for you to be able to find what you were looking for and that sense of reset in the middle of the year. We've just got a couple of minutes left. I'm going to press into the record at the end of the 2 minutes. But we did start a little bit late as we were waiting for us all to gather in. So hopefully you've got a few minutes just so we can finish up our time together, or you can keep writing in your own environment. But like I said at the beginning, I wanted to take some time just to explore an opportunity of what we need to forgive ourselves from of this year. What has happened over the last 6 months that you need to forgive yourself for? I want you to write it out and to let it go. So maybe it's a story. Maybe it's a moment where you reacted really big to something and maybe it didn't match the environment. Maybe you stopped being a part of a community, or maybe there was just something that happened this year that it's time for you to just write a little opportunity for you to forgive yourself. And if it's hard to write it out on paper, you could actually just take a moment, like the meditation of how we started, and you could just have a little moment with yourself and just go, I forgive myself for that. I'm doing the best that I know how. And let's just take a moment to do that. Then I'm going to press end to our recording and I'm going to open it up for question and answers. And you're able to keep writing, keep exploring. If you'd like to ask me some questions, I'll be available here to be able to do that. But let's take some time now to really just acknowledge a story that was hard. Beautiful. Going to stop the recording.